All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with the preview of Ravens Niners on Christmas night. Of course, this video is brought to you by Mojo Fantasy. Check that link in the description and use that promo code Krug Krueg, and Mojo Fantasy will match you up to your first $100. Pig and a Pickle and Mojo Fantasy bringing you this Niners Ravens preview. All right, let's talk a little bit about it. Should be a good one. Ravens are 11-3. Niners are 11-3. 5:15 West Coast time. The Niners kick it off with the Ravens at Levi's. Niners 5.5-point favorites. All right, what's the key in this game? Well, a couple things. One, you have to stop Lamar Jackson. He's thrown for 3,105 yards this season, 22 shy of his career high set in his MVP season of 2019. He's already set a career high with 266 completions and equaled one with 401 pass attempts. His completion rate of 66.3% is also a career best for Lamar. So Lamar has owned the NFC teams. He's played 20 games against NFC teams. He's 19-1 in his career against the NFC. So stopping Lamar Jackson, winning on third down, absolutely one of the keys to victory. Another key to victory, Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's got to take care of the football, folks. It's as simple as that. He's taken his game to another level during this Niners 6-game winning streak with a 138.1 passer rating, 17 touchdowns, and only 2 picks, 11 yards per attempt. Brock Purdy is playing amazing football. Purdy's 6 games this season with a passer rating of at least 130 are tied for the most ever in a season. Think about that. For all you people going, I don't know if he deserves the MVP. He's got 6 games with a passer rating of at least 130, most ever in a season. Ever. All quarterbacks, all years. You're going to deny this guy the MVP? I think not. All right, the big key in this thing is you got to stop the run game. The Niners have struggled against the Cardinals, by the way, last week. They struggled to stop the run. The Niners allowed 234 rushing yards last week, their most in a game in more than 6 seasons. The Ravens cannot run the ball successfully against this 49er defense all day, or it is going to be a long day at the office. Now, Keaton Mitchell's out. He's probably their best runner. I don't really believe that Gus Edwards is going to be able to run it on the Niners. I don't really believe in Justice Hill to be able to run it on the 49ers. Niners have been stout for much of the season against the run, but man, they got gashed last week. And they're going to have to be much better against Lamar and company this week, or they're going to lose this game. So, absolute key to the game. The key matchup is the Ravens rushing attack against the 49ers run defense. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the injuries in this game. The Ravens lost their promising young running back, Keaton Mitchell, to a season-ending injury last weekend. So he's out. That's their significant injury. The Niners are going to be without Eric Armstead. He's got the plantar fasciitis. Also, Jawan Jennings, JJ, third and Jawan's not going to be playing. No, neither is Oren Burks, Ross Dwelly, or Kalia Davis. So those guys are all out. So it's a big matchup for the 49ers, and they're going to have to do it without some of their top guys, including, most notably, Eric Armstead. One guy who is going to go is Javon Hargrave. He's going to gut it out with the hammy. Elijah Mitchell has got the knee. Actually, both these guys are questionable, so it's still 50-50 here a few hours before game time, whether or not they're going to go tonight. Of course, the most famous meeting between these teams came in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl, 47 in New Orleans. I was there that night when the power went out after the 2012 season. It was February of 2013, and the Ravens won that day 34-31 because Jim Harbaugh gagged on first and goal on the 5. Couldn't get it in. 4 chances from the 5-yard line against an old, tired team. And the 2-minute warning, and then Harbaugh called a timeout because he couldn't get a play called in time. And then he went 3 fades or 3 passes from Kaepernick. It was just terrible design, terrible thought out, just a gag job. I mean, seriously. I mean, Jim Harbaugh, Colin Kaepernick, I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable they didn't win that game. They easily should have won that game, and they didn't. Very, very painful loss for the 49ers. By the way, this is tied for the latest in the season that teams with sole possession of the best record in their conference have played. In 2005, the Seahawks were 12-2, and they beat the Colts, who were 13-1, 28-13 in week 16. We haven't seen a matchup of this magnitude this late in the year in 20 years. So this is big. This is absolutely big. Big key for the 49ers, you can't let Justin Madubuike dominate the game. He's tied the NFL record with at least a half sack in 11 consecutive games. So, that's going to be something to watch. The Ravens, by the way, have held their opponent to one touchdown or fewer in 9 games this season. No other team in the league has done it more than 6 times. So they've got a really good defense, big defensive line, led by 360-pound nose guard Michael Pierce. Then you got Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith in the middle. But as I mentioned before, the Niners have to stop Baltimore's run. I think the Niners are going to be able to run it because the Niners have had a lot of success running out of 21 and 22 personnel. The Ravens have struggled to stop the run out of 21 and 22 personnel. But Baltimore, when they're running the ball, has run for at least 100 yards now in 30 straight games. No other team has an active streak longer than 7 games, and the Ravens have done it for 30 straight. So the Niners are rolling, though, and they're going to have to beat a very good 49er team that's hot. Niners are the first team to win 6 straight games by more than 10 points in the same season since the Saints did it in 2009. And if you're not keeping track, it's 2023. That was a while ago. So very interesting. The 49ers are also really good. Really, really good under Shanahan late in the year. They've won 17 straight regular season games played after November the 1st, which is tied for the longest streak ever in the history of the league. So definitely something to watch for there. The 49ers are really cooking on offense. They average 6.79 yards per play. That's the third best mark for a team in the Super Bowl era. They're also not giving the ball away. They're tied for the NFL lead for the fewest giveaways with 12 and the most takeaways with 25. So, the Niners, like big key for the 49ers is score on the opening drive. The Niners lead the NFL with 66 points scored on that opening drive. So major key. Major key is also getting Christian McCaffrey going. He leads the NFL with 1,801 yards from scrimmage. He's tied for the NFL lead with 20 touchdowns. He's got 7 straight games with at least 100 yards from scrimmage. It's tied with Roger Craig going back to 88 for the most in a season in franchise history. If you said, who's going to be the player of the game in this thing? Guys, I'm going to go with Debo. I like Debo Samuel. He's playing at an all-pro level right now. He scored 7 touchdowns over the past 3 games, 5 receiving, 2 rushing. He's the first Niner player with 3 straight multi-touchdown games since T.O. did it in 2000. The most recent player to do it 4 games in a row was Joe Mixon back in 2021. By the way, a little subplot to this thing. I did read that Dez Bryant says he bet $10,000 on the Niners to lose. So let's all root against Dez. If you say, give me something really concrete that you really like. Well, Warren Sharp breaks this stuff down really, really well. And he thinks that the Niners rushing attack is going to have a lot of success against the Baltimore run D. And if you say, well, explain that to me. I need to know more about that because the Ravens have a terrific defense. They've got Queen and Roquan in the middle. They've got a huge defensive front. How are the Niners going to have success running it? Well, one area where the Ravens struggle is when teams utilize 2 running backs on the field at the same time. Typically, it's a fullback and a running back. 21 personnel, 22 personnel. The Ravens' defense against 21 and 22 personnel is terrible. And Mike McDonald, their defensive coordinator, he plays with light boxes, and as a result, they're susceptible to the ground game. And when you look at the numbers, they're dead last in EPA per rush against 2 backs. They're dead last in success rate against 2 backs. They're dead last in yards after contact per rush against 2 backs. And they're number 4 in yards per carry. So the Niners run offense uses 2-back sets 60% of the time. Second highest rate of any offense in the NFL. So it should be an advantage Niners. And that means this thing could tilt in their advantage. So the other thing that I think George Kittle brought up that is worth mentioning, Kyle Shanahan has talked to his team that the Ravens are the number one defense in the NFL in the first quarter. So the Niners need to be ready to play in the first quarter and get ready to be hit in the mouth because that's the way the Ravens do it. And lastly, let's finish with Brock Purdy. He remains absolutely dominant at Levi's. You look at what he's done at Levi's. He's averaging 10.9 yards since week 7, 10.9 yards per attempt. That's 2 full yards more than any other quarterback over that span. So Baltimore's defense ranks, over the past 4 games, bottom 12 in points per game allowed to quarterbacks. So Purdy, I think, makes his case for the MVP, a lock with a big win tonight over Lamar. And I think he gets it. All right. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Mojo Fantasy for sponsoring this video. Thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show. Merry Christmas to all. Hope you like the new studio and the new neon light we just put up in the studio. And I'm going to go Niners 31, Ravens 21. High-scoring game, Niners to win by 10. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you all. And if you're going to be at Levi's, we'll see you there later on tonight. And thanks for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.